Hi, welcome to this week's episode of On the Level Leadership. And this week we're talking about encouraging the heart. Hi, welcome again to this week's episode of On the Level Leadership. And before I get into the content this week, I just wanted to man, we're late. I'm late doing this. I'm normally supposed to do this on a weekly basis, but this week I'm a little late, and here's why. Because we went to Walt Disney World, which was awesome. And see the link down below. I have a vlog that I did directly from Walt Disney World on the topic of creating magic. So it was a book that I read on the way down that I thought was really interesting. It had some really great leadership tidbits in there. But this week, I wanted to take it easy. And although I've been kind of going through the Leadership Challenge book, sort of almost, topic by topic or principle by principle, I'm going to kind of skip ahead to the end of the book and talk about encouraging the heart, which is all about appreciation. The reason why I wanted to do that this week is because we just had Thanksgiving here in Canada last Monday, or this last weekend. And so I had Monday off, and I did not post a video on Monday. But I wanted to kind of take this time to discuss the concept of appreciation, encouraging heart, because it's Thanksgiving and it's really great timing. This week I really wanted to talk about Kouzes and Posner's encouraging the heart. And the reason why is because I kind of personally really love this principle. And I think it's sort of sad that it's the last principle in their book, because to be honest, it's probably one of the first ones I would encourage leaders to participate in. So if you're interested, again, I'm kind of referring to the Leadership Challenge by Kouzes and Posner. This is the fifth version of this book. There are newer versions online. I do have a link down below if you're interested in this book. But encouraging the heart really has to do with really recognizing people's contributions and really celebrating wins as a team or as an organization. This is probably it's one of the easiest, and yet seems to be one of the hardest things for leaders to actively engage in. In my organization, I get sort of a mixed bag on this. I get some leaders that are super good at this, that are very attuned in being able to say thank you and patting on the back and recognizing past efforts. We have, award ceremonies on an annual basis, and at times they'll provide sort of instant gratification or awards in the form of recognition at team meetings and so on. And then there are other areas of the agency or other leaders in the agency who I feel often really suffer from a lack of ability to do the appreciation business. And I kind of ask myself why that is. I'd be curious as to what you think might be some of the reasons why people don't show appreciation in the workplace. Is it an insecurity issue? Is it something that people just have a hard time doing? Is it because you don't want to inflate people's egos so that they don't, get their heads blown up or something, and then they don't do their work anymore? I don't know. I don't understand the reason behind it. All I know is that I try to spend as much time as I can appreciating the people that have worked for me or with me in the past. So Kouzes and Posner really wanted to focus on the recognition of contributions. And if you go in the book, what it basically talks about is you first want to expect the best of people, because usually what you expect is sort of what you end up getting from folks. If you expect people to be needing to be micromanaged and not productive and not helping or not doing what they're supposed to be doing, guess what? Most people will deliver what you expect of them. So you want to expect the best so that you get the best. So you want to show them that you believe in them, and then recognize those contributions when they've made the effort to either move a file forward or to improve their behaviors or whatever it is that you're looking to achieve, whether it's a goal, a behavior, a project, a big strategy, whatever it is. I really feel it's important that people recognize every single contribution that every team member plays. Lee Cockrell really focused on this notion that everyone is important. In fact, it was his first principle in the book. Everybody's important. And so for that reason, because everybody's important, you want to recognize everybody in similar ways, if possible, to just ensure that everybody feels like whatever effort they're putting towards a project or towards their job or towards the goal that they're trying to achieve, that they're recognized for the effort being put in. Sometimes we can have challenges. Sometimes things don't go as smoothly as they're supposed to. Sometimes projects don't move as fast as they should. Sometimes we have hiccups in terms of how our partners or our shareholders or our clients are reacting to something. But the ultimate movement is still moving forward, and we're still kind of progressing on a project. It may not be going as fast as perhaps senior management expects. And when that's the case, I think it's even more important to recognize people for what they are doing to try to move the ball forward, because sometimes you're pushing rope uphill and that's not always easy. So you want to really recognize people for what they provide in terms of services and in terms of, I give a crap attitude. The thing that you want to do, and Kouzes and Posner talks about this, is you want to be very, very clear on what your expectations are. Lee Cockrell from Walt Disney World had very high level of expectations for his cast members. Whatever it is that your rules of play are, make sure that everybody knows what the rules of play are and that everybody knows how the game is to be played, because that way you can recognize accordingly. The other piece of this, though, is providing regular, consistent feedback. And I kind of see this at work where feedback is only done maybe once a year, and if you're lucky, twice a year, at the mid-year sort of review period of time, and then at the end of the year when you do sort of a performance review of that person's ability to meet their objectives as defined at the beginning of the year. So making sure that you provide regular feedback is extremely important, because you don't want people to lose sight of the fact that they're actually doing a really good job. And really, you shouldn't be doing it just twice a year, for good and bad reasons. If you have a difficult conversation to have, mid-year or end-of-year reviews are not the time to do it, because it's going to come as a shock to the person who may have thought that they were doing a really good job but weren't doing a really good job. It's really important to personalize recognition. We tend to, in my particular environment, we sometimes will honor the entire team, because we want to make sure that everybody gets the recognition they deserve. And we have one particular group, in fact, that won't accept any kind of recognition unless it's done as a team. That's kind of their organizational culture in terms of how they function. And while that's okay, I still think that personal recognition is important, and it could be as simple as when you have either a bilateral meeting with your employee or your cast member or whatever, wherever you're working, and you're talking about a project or a process or what have you, using that as an opportunity to personalize and say, you know what, I really saw how you behaved last week in this meeting, or how you handled this crisis, or how you managed this situation. That's really fantastic. It fits in with our core values. It really helps to push things forward. It was a good example. You're a great role model, whatever. Personalize your feedback to that individual so that they know you've paid attention to what they personally are providing. And again, employees, team members who feel valued, who feel appreciated, who feel like their opinions matter, are more loyal and more willing to follow. Be willing to get to know people. It's not rocket science. It's human nature. We like to feel appreciated and valued, and we want to feel recognized. And sometimes just a small thing of getting to know people's names. When I took on a role many years ago, when I took over a team, one of the biggest complaints I got from the team members was that their former boss didn't even know their names, right? Didn't know their names, didn't understand their family dynamics, didn't get what they brought to the table. And that was one of their biggest complaints. They had issues with this individual, but the point being is that is a simple thing that any human being can do, is to try to just get to know people. It's not rocket science. So one of the biggest things I tried to focus on was asking people how they were doing, how their families were doing, and getting to know who they were, the kinds of things they like to do, and do they like to hunt, or did they like to go on vacations at Disney World? Hello. Or did they, have 3 kids or 4 kids or no kids or a new kid or whatever. Get to know the people you work with, and that will enable folks to feel appreciated and valued, even if you haven't even said thank you yet. Just recognizing the human being exists in your organization is sometimes enough to kind of keep things going in a positive direction. So another thing that people tend to do is not, they think that providing incentives to staff has to be like big and bold and cost lots of money, and it really doesn't. The easiest, simplest thing is to just say thank you, but you can also be inventive with your incentives, you know, or your appreciation responses. You could, I don't know, buy them coffee for a week, or maybe you offer them your parking space for a week because they did a really great job, and it's just a spontaneous thing. Don't make it a standard thing. Just, you know, spontaneously, hey, you know, you did a really great job on that contract last week. I saw you putting in so much more effort, and as a reward, I'm going to give you my prime parking spot for a week up front. How about that? Thanks. It's a small thing, but it's something that can really help to promote, and it also sets a bit of a precedent in the sense that the staff around are going to see, wow, you know, so-and-so got a parking spot for a week. Geez, that's really cool. And maybe the next time, you know, you paid for coffee for a week. Wow, they got a free coffee every day from their favorite, you know, coffee store for 5 days. That's great. Those kinds of things then have a ripple effect in the organization. So, you know, kind of try to think outside the box as to how you can appreciate folks. It's not always about having to have a big grandiose meeting and giving them gift certificates with high dollar value gifts or anything like that. Sometimes it could be just the simple little things. So Kouzes and Posner has like a little, at the end of the chapter, they have a little box called Take Action. And I kind of like this because it talks about how you can recognize people's contributions. I'm going to read directly from the book because I think it's just important to get the full context. And this is on 298 of the fifth version here. So there's a couple of things. How you can encourage the heart, in particular with contribution recognition, is, you know, make sure that people know what's expected of them. Maintain high expectations of certain individuals and their behaviors. Communicate positive expectations clearly and regularly. You know, make sure that you let people know that you believe in them. Yeah, a simple thing. You know, I got you. I know you can do this. I know you can do this. Go ahead and do this. Off you go. Create an environment that makes it comfortable for people to receive so that they don't feel. So culturally, I go back to my other story where if culturally the organization likes to do things in a team environment, then maybe if you do an individual recognition in a team meeting, that might not go over very well. So really make sure you pay attention to the culture you're dealing with in your organization. Link recognition and rewards with performance outcomes so that only those who meet or exceed them receive them. Find out the types of encouragement that makes the difference, and the only way you can do that is by asking staff, you know, what kinds of things do you think we could do to help things along or to really show our appreciation for you? Be creative, connect with people in person, say thank you, and the most important thing is don't take anybody for granted because, in the words of Lee Cockrell, everyone is important. The second part of encouraging the heart is celebrating the victories. So this has to do with celebrating the bigger victories. It could be the small wins too, mind you, but you know, celebrating the victories on a project or on an initiative or how you're moving something forward is really important to kind of keep the momentum positive and moving in a good direction. Celebrate those accomplishments in public. You know, make sure that when you have all staffs or when you have, you know, big town halls with the organization, that certain groups are highlighted in the things that they're really doing to help bolster your organization's performance. You want to create a sense of community. So what does community do? Being part of a community means feeling supported. It means being valued. It means being contributory to the overall health and well-being of that community. It's about identifying with that community in a way. So are we all called the Falcons if we're going to high school, or the GGs in my case from high school? Do we identify ourselves by team colors? Are we identifying ourselves by the work that we do? What does our community look like? So being clear about what that looks like and really celebrating the sense of community by really connecting with people is a really positive way to ensure that folks feel appreciated and feel valued. I love this phrase that Kouzes and Posner use in the book, and they say, invest in fun. Laughter is a really positive indication of a healthy organization. People who have fun together work well together. If laughter is absent, if the environment is quiet and people aren't really socializing, that's usually indicative of a toxic environment, one where people don't feel safe to talk, don't feel safe to have a good time or laugh, aren't very happy in the work that they're doing, and don't feel satisfied. Find ways to connect with your staff. Now, there's some folks, myself included, who have some pretty strict rules around how we function outside of the workplace. Some folks do not fraternize with people they work with outside of work. Others socialize tremendously with the people they work with. So really it depends on every individual. So maybe investing in fun means that we don't all go to the bar at the end of the day. Maybe you can go play around in mini golf, or maybe, I don't know, go to a local laser tag company and just like shoot each other with laser tag or something. I don't know, because it's a lot harder to get mad or to let egos affect you if you're connected with people. If it's us versus them, it's easy to let the environment get very toxic because us versus them does not allow for positive interaction. But if everybody is us and everybody's part of the same community, then it kind of helps to encourage the heart and make people feel like they are part of something bigger. And I think that's really cool. Celebrations should be part of your organizational culture. And I think that that's something that we typically, oftentimes may have a hard time in certain work environments, especially really serious ones. When I worked in the emergency room, celebrating wins oftentimes had to do with, we just saved a life. It's pretty serious. I just remember that we all had a bit of a warped sense of humor, and if you talk to nurses who work in a critical care environment, we all tend to have these warped senses of humor, and that's kind of how we adapt to the seriousness of the workplace that we have. And while the content of what's happening in an emergency room is most definitely serious, it's okay to have fun. In fact, we had a really good team spirit. For the longest time, we had a fantastic group of people. I'm sure they still are fantastic. I just don't work with them anymore. I've moved on in my career. I'm no longer a frontline nurse. Try to invest in fun because it helps to build morale. It helps to build that sense of connection with the people that you're working with. As leaders within the organization, no matter at what level you're at, it's really important that you participate in these kinds of behaviors so you can try to lift up the whole organization. Sometimes the organization is going through really rough times, and I think that's when it's even more important for us to step up and do these things. So once again, thanks again for watching this week's episode of On the Level Leadership. It's good to be home, although I have to say I miss Walt Disney World. It was an awesome experience. Love being there. It's great. But here I am back to my weekly vlog. So again, thanks for watching. And if you have any questions about the references, I'll list both the books, both Kouzes and Posner and the Creating Magic book down below, so you can refer to them if you are interested. Otherwise, if you really like these videos and you'd like to see more content on a weekly basis, feel free to subscribe and click the notification icon, and you'll be notified as soon as a new video is uploaded. Thanks again for watching. See you next week.